The slave who became the greatest teacher of freedom never owned property. He lived with nothing. Yet his understanding of wealth surpasses every modern investment strategy you will find on social media. Epictetus taught that true power lies not in accumulation, but in the ability to remain unshaken by loss. This principle, forged in chains, offers a blueprint for financial control in an age of manufactured chaos. This video reveals how Epictetus would navigate cryptocurrency, stock markets, and the relentless pressure to consume. You will learn why his teachings on desire and aversion create better returns than technical analysis, why his distinction between what you control and what you cannot control protects capital better than any hedge fund strategy, and why the poorest man in ancient Rome understood wealth better than billionaires today. A woman sits in her car. She has just left a meeting with her financial advisor. He recommended aggressive growth funds, high-risk positions, the promise of exponential returns. She feels pressure building in her chest, not excitement but anxiety. She knows she should feel grateful for the opportunity, but something feels wrong. Her advisor showed her charts, projections that climbed steadily upward. He spoke quickly, using terms she did not fully understand. When she asked about risk, he smiled and said risk is just opportunity in disguise. When she mentioned her concern about losing her savings, he suggested she was thinking too small. That wealth requires boldness. That hesitation is the enemy of success. She drives home in silence. Her hands grip the steering wheel. She thinks about her modest salary, the years it took to save what she has. The advisor made it sound simple. Invest aggressively now or watch inflation destroy her purchasing power. Stay conservative and guarantee mediocrity. The choice seemed obvious in his office. Now, alone, it feels like a threat. This is not financial planning. This is manipulation. The modern financial system profits from your insecurity. It creates urgency where none exists. It reframes patience as weakness and caution as failure. It tells you that wealth comes from taking risks you cannot afford, following trends you do not understand, and trusting people who earn commissions on your decisions. Epictetus would see through this immediately. He would recognize the advisor's pitch as an attempt to control the woman through her desires and fears. He would ask her a simple question. What do you actually control in this situation? Not the market, not the performance of the funds, not the honesty of the advisor. What you control is whether you invest, how much you invest, whether you act from reason or emotion. Epictetus taught in Rome during the height of imperial power. He saw wealth concentrated in the hands of emperors and senators. He watched people destroy themselves chasing status. He observed how external possessions created internal slavery. Men who owned estates but could not sleep. Women adorned with jewelry but consumed by anxiety. The richest people in the empire, enslaved by their need to maintain and grow what they had. His solution was radical. Separate yourself from outcomes you cannot control. Focus entirely on your own choices. Understand that wealth is not what you own, but your relationship to what you own. A poor man who needs nothing is richer than a wealthy man who needs more. This is not philosophy for monks. This is practical wisdom for anyone navigating market volatility and financial pressure. Apply this to modern investing. You cannot control whether stocks rise or fall. You cannot control cryptocurrency regulations. You cannot control interest rate decisions or global economic policy. These are external events. Attempting to control them creates suffering. Reacting emotionally to them destroys capital. What you control is your investment system, your discipline, your refusal to let external noise dictate internal decisions. Consider this framework. Epictetus divided all things into two categories: things within our control and things outside our control. Within your control are your beliefs, your choices, your actions, your responses. Outside your control are other people's opinions, market movements, economic conditions, political decisions. Suffering comes from confusing these categories, from trying to control what you cannot and neglecting what you can. Most investors reverse this. They obsess over market predictions they cannot control while neglecting the budget discipline they can control. They refresh portfolio values they cannot change while ignoring spending habits they can change. They follow financial influencers whose advice they cannot verify while avoiding the simple task of defining their own investment goals. This reversal guarantees anxiety and usually guarantees loss. If you understand this distinction, write control in the comments. This is the foundation of everything that follows. Without this clarity, no investment strategy will work. With this clarity, even simple strategies produce long-term wealth. Epictetus would approach 21st century investing with brutal simplicity. First, define what you need, not what you want, not what advertising sells you. What do you actually need for a good life? Shelter, food, health, meaningful work, relationships. Calculate the cost. Everything beyond this is preference. Luxury, optional. When you understand this distinction, you stop emotional spending. You stop trying to fill internal voids with external purchases. This exercise is harder than it sounds. Most people discover that their actual needs cost far less than their current spending. The gap reveals how much financial pressure is self-imposed. Understanding this is liberating. You do not need the new car. You want it. You do not need the larger house. You prefer it. Recognizing preferences as preferences removes their power over you. Second, earn more than you need. This sounds obvious, but most people reverse it. They expand their needs to match their income. Epictetus would call this slavery. You become dependent on your salary, unable to leave bad situations, unable to take risks that matter, unable to build financial independence. Instead, keep your needs fixed. As income grows, the gap between what you earn and what you need becomes your freedom fund, your ability to say no, your foundation for wealth building. This principle runs counter to modern culture. We are trained to expand our lifestyle as income grows. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is one of the primary reasons people earning high incomes still feel financially insecure. They earn more, but they also spend more. The gap never widens. The freedom never arrives. Epictetus would see this as choosing slavery. Every expense you add becomes a chain. Third, invest the surplus with complete indifference to short-term outcomes. This is where Epictetus separates himself from modern advice. Most investment strategies focus on maximizing returns. Epictetus would focus on maintaining inner peace regardless of returns. He would choose portfolio management systems that require minimal attention, that do not create anxiety, that allow you to ignore daily market volatility. What does this look like practically? Broad index funds, automatic contributions, annual rebalancing, no stock picking, no cryptocurrency speculation, no attempts to time markets. This is not because these strategies guarantee the highest returns. It is because they eliminate the need to control what you cannot control. They free your mind to focus on what matters: your work, your relationships, your character, while your wealth compounds silently in the background. Fourth, practice voluntary discomfort. Epictetus recommended regularly experiencing the hardship you fear. Sleep on the floor occasionally. Eat simple food. Wear old clothes, not as punishment but as training, to prove to yourself that loss is tolerable, that you can survive without luxury, that your well-being does not depend on external comfort. This eliminates the fear that drives bad financial decisions. Apply this to investing. Imagine your portfolio dropping 50%. Sit with that feeling, not hypothetically but viscerally. What would you do? How would you respond? If the answer is panic, sell, abandon your strategy, then you are overexposed. You have invested more than you can afford to lose psychologically. Epictetus would say you have made yourself a slave to external conditions. Fifth, ignore financial influencers completely. Epictetus taught that most people giving advice are slaves to their own desires. They speak not from wisdom but from need. Need for attention, need for validation, need for income. Modern financial influencers are no different. They profit from your engagement, from your clicks, from your courses and subscriptions. Their advice is tailored not to your success but to their revenue. Think about the incentive structure. A financial influencer makes money when you watch their content. They do not make money when you succeed financially. Their business model depends on keeping you engaged, uncertain, and searching for the next insight. This creates a fundamental conflict of interest. Epictetus would tell you to learn principles, not follow personalities, to build systems based on logic, not loyalty to someone's brand. Sixth, develop the discipline of subtraction in your financial life. Most people add complexity, more accounts, more assets, more strategies. They believe sophistication equals intelligence. Epictetus would do the opposite. He would eliminate everything unnecessary. One bank account, one investment account, one simple strategy. This is not laziness. This is focus. The ability to understand completely what you own and why you own it. When you subtract complexity, you gain control. You can monitor what matters. You can make decisions quickly. You can adapt without confusion. Most importantly, you remove the cognitive load that drains your energy and creates anxiety. Your financial life becomes background infrastructure, not a source of constant stress. Seventh, redefine wealth as freedom, not accumulation. Epictetus was a slave who gained freedom. He understood that external freedom means nothing without internal freedom. You can own property and still be enslaved by the need to maintain it. You can have money and still be controlled by the fear of losing it. True wealth is the ability to lose everything and remain unshaken. This reframing changes everything. You stop chasing arbitrary numbers. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop feeling inadequate because someone has more. Instead, you measure wealth by your independence, by your ability to make choices based on values rather than financial pressure, by the peace you feel regardless of your account balance. Eighth, understand that the market is indifferent to your well-being. It does not care if you succeed or fail. It does not reward virtue or punish vice consistently. It simply moves based on forces beyond your control. Epictetus would say this is liberating. If the market is indifferent, then your job is not to predict it or control it. Your job is to participate in it rationally while remaining emotionally detached from outcomes. This is not cynicism. This is realism. The same realism that allowed Epictetus to endure slavery without bitterness. He understood that external circumstances are neutral. They become good or bad only through our judgments. A market crash is not inherently bad. It is only bad if you judge it as bad. It could be an opportunity to buy. It could be a lesson in risk management. It could be irrelevant if your time horizon is long enough. Ninth, build your investment strategy around your actual life, not theoretical optimization. Most advice assumes you are a rational calculator seeking maximum returns. Epictetus would ask what you are actually capable of maintaining, not what you should do, but what you will do consistently. A perfect strategy you abandon during stress is worthless. A simple strategy you maintain through volatility is priceless. This means choosing boredom over excitement, choosing consistency over performance, choosing peace over profit maximization. Most investors cannot do this. Their ego demands they participate in complexity, that they feel intelligent through sophisticated positions. Epictetus would call this vanity, the need to appear smart rather than be effective. 10th, accept that you will die and your wealth will vanish. Epictetus meditated on mortality constantly, not from depression but from clarity. When you truly internalize that death is certain and timing is uncertain, your relationship to wealth changes. You stop hoarding. You stop sacrificing present well-being for future accumulation. You stop delaying life until you feel financially secure enough. This does not mean spend recklessly. It means recognize that wealth serves life, not the other way around. That the goal is not to die with the most money, but to live well with enough. That financial success measured purely in numbers is empty if it costs you health, relationships, and peace. The woman from the beginning sits at her kitchen table. She has made a decision. She will not follow the advisor's aggressive plan. She will invest conservatively in broad index funds. She will automate contributions. She will check her balance once per quarter. She will ignore financial media. She will focus on earning more and needing less. This is not the path to quick riches, but it is the path to freedom. Epictetus never owned investments, but if he lived today, this is what he would do. Not because it guarantees the highest returns, but because it guarantees something better. The ability to sleep at night. The freedom to make choices based on values rather than fear. The peace that comes from controlling what you can and accepting what you cannot. The modern financial system wants you anxious. It wants you checking prices. It wants you believing that complex strategies and constant action lead to wealth. It profits from your confusion and your urgency. Epictetus offers the opposite: simplicity, patience. Focus on internal control rather than external outcomes. This approach may not make you the richest person in the room, but it will make you the freest. Bitcoin will rise and fall. Stocks will boom and crash. Economic conditions will shift. These movements are outside your control. What is inside your control is your response, your discipline, your refusal to let external chaos create internal slavery, your commitment to a system built on reason rather than emotion. You cannot control the market. You can control your participation in it. You cannot control economic policy. You can control your spending discipline. You cannot control other people's success. You can control your own definition of wealth. This is the investment strategy of Epictetus, not a prediction about markets, but a framework for living. The path is simple. Define your needs, earn more than you need, invest the surplus automatically, ignore short-term volatility, practice voluntary discomfort, subtract complexity, redefine wealth as freedom, accept market indifference, build around your actual behavior, remember your mortality. These 10 principles require no special knowledge, no insider information, no complex analysis. They require only discipline and self-awareness. This is harder than it sounds. The system will pressure you constantly. Friends will brag about their returns. Influencers will promise shortcuts. Your ego will demand you prove your intelligence through sophisticated moves. You will feel FOMO when others succeed with strategies you rejected. All of this is external noise. All of it is outside your control. Your only job is to maintain your system regardless of external pressure. The slave became the teacher. The man who owned nothing taught emperors. His poverty was his proof. He needed nothing external to demonstrate his worth. His wealth was internal, unshakable, permanent. This is the investment that compounds forever. Not money but character. Not assets but wisdom. Not portfolio value but inner peace. You face a choice. Follow the system that profits from your anxiety. Chase returns you cannot control. Let market volatility dictate your emotional state. Complicate your life with strategies you do not understand. Or follow Epictetus. Simplify. Focus on what you control. Build wealth through discipline rather than luck. Measure success by your freedom rather than your balance. The answer is obvious, but knowing and doing are different. The work begins now. Define your needs today. Calculate your surplus. Choose a simple investment strategy. Automate it. Then turn your attention to what matters: your work, your relationships, your growth as a person. Let your wealth build in the background while you build your life in the foreground. This is how Epictetus would invest in the 21st century. Not with complexity, but with clarity. Not with aggression, but with patience. Not with emotion, but with reason. Not by controlling markets, but by controlling himself. You can do the same. The question is whether you will. Whether you have the discipline to choose boring consistency over exciting complexity. Whether you value freedom more than status. Subscribe to Money and Stoicism to master your finances and your mind. Like this video if you seek true freedom.